and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about the mental change. We will.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Alzheimer Speaks. I'm so thrilled you can join us today. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and we are going to be having a really interesting conversation. We are going to be talking about functional tools to enhance communication and life participation. And I think that is wonderful in the realm of dementia. But before I introduce our guest, I want to just let people know, if you are in Texas and in the Amarillo area on November 10th, I would love to meet you. I am going to be doing a full day program for the Area Agency on Aging. It's their 17th annual caregiver conference. And we're going to have a lot of fun. You can contact them at 806-331-2227. That's 806-331-2227. Also, if you are looking for a support group, we do a memory cafe, which is for people with dementia and their care partners. We do that virtually. So we have people from Minnesota, where I'm located, all the way to Belgium and New Jersey and Florida. Feel free to join us. Just reach out to me at Lori@alzheimerspeaks.com. We meet the second and fourth Wednesday of each month from 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time, and we do that via Zoom. And if you're in Minnesota, I also do another support group called Caregiver Connect, and that is the last Wednesday of each month at 10 a.m. to 11:30. And that has a group for the care partners, and then also does respite care for those that are eligible living with dementia as well. And you can register for that by calling the Shoreview Parks and Rec at 763-913-6140. That's 763-913-6140. And that goes from 10 a.m. to 11:30. And then, of course, I always encourage people to go to alzheimerspeaks.com. There you can find all of our free resources. There's a ton of them. And many of them, people with dementia and their care partners can participate in as well, like our dementia chats and Dementia in the Arts program. And you'll also be able to find from their Dementia Map, which is our global resource directory, which is free of charge, has over 150 categories that you can search, and is growing every day. So don't miss out on that. You can also check out our book, Betty the Bald Chicken, by clicking on our book tab. That is for anybody dealing with dementia. It can also be used for bullying, divorce, death, any type of chronic illness, addictions, and so forth. And it's just a way to get people to have a conversation about how we care through a children's book. And it's been fun to see the kids really teaching us adults different ways to look at care. So with no further ado, let's introduce you to our guest. So Teresa, I'm really excited to have you with us today. I'm going to have you go ahead and introduce yourself. This has been a long and coming kind of brewing show that we've been working on in terms of date and time. And so I'm just thrilled that we're able to do this before the close of the year, because I think what you guys do is incredible. So please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to be here with you today as well. Thanks for having me. So my name is Teresa Thompson. I am a speech language pathologist. My experience includes working in a variety of different settings. So I've worked in hospitals, rehab centers, skilled nursing centers, long-term care, and home health with the adult population. And I have worked with adults with varying diagnoses, including dementia. I now work as a senior clinical educator with Lingraphica, And Lingraphica has been around for over 30 years. And our goal is to help those with communication challenges really improve their communication and their quality of life.
Okay, wonderful. Now, I always start out all my interviews by asking the same question to everyone, and that is, have you been personally touched by dementia in your own family or circle of friends?
I have. Yes, I have been personally touched by dementia. When I was in my early 20s, both my maternal grandmother and grandfather were diagnosed with dementia around the same time. So one or the other would, of course, have been extremely difficult, but that double whammy really just shattered us. I just remember, so much sadness and stress as we worked to understand what was happening. And my mom and her siblings were moving my grandparents cross country to try to get them the best care and closer to family. And, there just weren't a lot of resources out there at that time to really deepen the understanding of dementia. My mom and I, we were just talking about that the other day. So I'm just so grateful that has changed and that families have more information and support through this journey.
Definitely. Well, thank you. Well, let's start out having you explain what the heck is a speech and language pathologist, and how do you work with people? Because it's not something, it's not something that we hear a ton about unless you have that particular thing going on. So why don't you tell us what you do?
Absolutely. So a speech language pathologist can work with individuals throughout the lifespan, actually. So we have speech language pathologists that specialize in early intervention all the way up to, the adult communicator. And we are trained on communication. We are trained on swallowing, and we are also trained on cognition. So when we're thinking about working with a person with dementia, our approach may be a little bit different. We are going to start out just as we would with any client, where we're kind of looking to find out what are their strengths, right? We want to maximize on those. We want to maximize the things that are going well with communication and cognition. And then we want to educate the person with dementia, their family, their friends, their caregivers on some strategies that really can help slow down that deterioration and maximize on those strengths for a longer period of time. So that could include things like setting up compensatory strategies. So external memory aids, I'm sure something that, you are very, very familiar with. That's where we may come in and help establish some memory aids that may help the person with dementia. We may recommend some alternative methods to help support their communication. We'll be discussing that a little bit more today. And we're going to be looking at daily tasks too. So finding out, how can we make daily tasks more manageable? Can we initiate some new routines? Can we identify some routines that need to be maintained? And how can we adapt the environment to really best support the person with dementia? So we have a really wide scope, and there may be speech language pathologists that, work only with particular populations, or you may have someone that has experience kind of throughout the lifespan.
Okay, wonderful. Why don't you tell us about Lingraphica and what type of products, the company actually offers people?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lori, we really have a lot of different offerings here at Lingraphica, so bear with me. I want to talk through all of them. So first, we do offer alternative and augmentative communication devices, also known as AAC devices. And you may have also heard these called speech generating devices. Those terms are really interchangeable. In essence, what that means is augmentative means that someone may use our device to supplement their verbal speech. Alternative means that they use the device in place of their verbal speech. So, in essence, it's their voice. So we offer free trials of our devices so that people can really see if they are a good fit. And we work with Medicare and Medicaid and VAs and commercial insurances for funding. We do also offer need-based financial assistance for out-of-pocket expenses if somebody is going through their insurance and it only covers a portion of that device, for example. So a quick summary of our devices is that they are designed to help support communication, and they also have therapy and community built in. So that takes me to some of our other offerings. Did you know that we have some free apps and free community opportunities, Lori?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so let me share about those. So we do offer free communication and therapy apps via Apple. So we have a couple different apps. First, I'll talk about our small talk apps. These are quick communication tools. So these apps are going to allow the user to tap a pre-programmed word or phrase on the screen. It will have an associated picture, and the app will speak that out loud for them. So for example, we have one focused on conversational phrases. We have one focused on vocabulary related to, just activities of daily living, like bathing and getting dressed. So these are a really nice place to start if someone would benefit from this type of tool. They differ from our AAC devices in that they can't be customized to the user. They're just a preset selection of words and phrases.
Okay. Well, that's nice because, when people get frustrated with communication, they withdraw, they get depressed. And so anything that we can do to ease that burden for people. I know some people with aphasia, things get jarbled up. And, I've been amazed that even when someone speaks in kind of ramble jamble, put the words together, I can still understand what they're saying when I slow my mind down and pay attention.
Yes.
But I know there's a lot of people that get really frustrated because they want to hear it, linearly. And then, when we get frustrated and show that, then they feel that and they shut down and, they're embarrassed, they feel shameful. And I mean, this isn't anything in their control. And, so people with dementia, I think can benefit from this, or people with strokes. I mean, there's so many different things, and none of us have just one thing. Typically, our lives are complicated and stuff. So
Isn't that the truth?
yeah. So I can see where this would be a really nice addition, and something that is with these free apps, something that's flexible when you're out in community, if you've got a phone, to be able to help somebody. Do like police departments and things like that know about these apps? Because I think that could be really helpful for, EMTs and stuff too.
We do have customizable cards available on our website for different diagnoses where people can print out a card and take that out if they, get pulled over, they're talking to a police officer, and let them know, I have this condition, I have difficulty communicating, I understand you, but I can't get the words out. So we do have a tool that's really easy for people to just kind of bring with them and, let first responders know. But, that's a really great question. I think that raising awareness within the first responder community of, just all the different options of AAC and how somebody might be communicating, certainly is something that could be improved upon.
Yeah. I'm always looking for, awareness and stuff. And it bothers me when we seem to always put the burden on the person diagnosed. It's like, they're just trying to manage. So the rest of us need to know more and expand how we approach things. So I can see where that could be really helpful. Now, you said that you had some free apps. Were there some other ones that you wanted to highlight as well, or?
Yeah, we do have some therapeutic platforms and community options that are all free as well. So we have 2 free therapy platforms. They're called TalkPath Therapy and TalkPath News. Both of these are actually incorporated into our AAC device, but they are also available as iPad apps, or you can just go to a regular website browser to access them. So TalkPath therapy, it gives access to just a variety of different therapeutic exercises. So there's all kinds of different things on there, like practicing speech, practicing reading, writing, memory, just tons of options. If somebody is working with a speech language pathologist, their SLP can actually set up a home exercise program for them through this app. And then when they sign in, they can just access that and complete the exercises that their SLP has kind of designed for them. It's a really nice tool.
So with the news, what is that one then?
Yeah, so TalkPath News is honestly probably my favorite app. It is a supportive reading tool. So you can browse by topic and select an article of choice, and then it will be read out loud. The text will show on screen. It will be highlighted as it is being read. There is an option to pause it. So if it's becoming overwhelming and somebody needs to, take a moment or hear something again, they have the option to do that. And then after the article has been read, there are some questions at the end. So multiple choice questions that help work on comprehension and recall.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. Anything else that you wanted to add to that as far as things that are accessible?
Yeah, and then I just wanted to mention that we just have some free opportunities for connection as well. So again, these are accessible via web browser, and they're also incorporated into our device. So if a device user is using their device for communication, they also have really easy access to these therapeutic tools and the abilities to connect. So we do have a free online aphasia community at aphasia.com. It offers things like educational resources and online forums and more. And then I would really, really love to tell you about our virtual connections program. So that is a free conversation group style Zoom meetup platform for people with aphasia. And these sessions are facilitated by a speech language pathologist or another professional who's been trained in supportive communication. And, we talked about aphasia, Lori. So is it okay if I kind of step back and explain the aphasia focus a little bit?
Yeah, because, some people might not. I mean, I talked about, jarbling, words and stuff, but feel free to define that better.
Yeah,
for people too.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we do have a large number of people with aphasia who use our devices. Certainly not limited to those with aphasia, though. But the tools I'll talk about are a little bit more aphasia specific resources. So aphasia is a language disorder, and it can manifest with difficulties with word finding, difficulties with verbal expression, comprehension, reading, writing. And in many cases, it's an acquired condition. So it's often after a stroke, like you mentioned, or a traumatic brain injury, for example. There is a type of aphasia, the primary progressive aphasia, that's a frontotemporal dementia. So that's classified in with aphasia because language or word finding difficulties are often the first signs of the condition. So aphasia and dementia do have a little bit of a tie in that the primary progressive aphasia really starts with those language difficulties. And then as the condition progresses, some of the memory challenges and cognitive challenges may come in. But we do have some virtual connection sessions that are specific for that population. So I did want to call those out as well. We have a session called Living with PPA that meets every other week. And then we also have a group for care partners supporting PPA, and that meets once a month. So those are just some really great free resources that give people an opportunity to connect, and I think that's always just so important to be able to connect with others who are kind of traveling that similar path.
Oh, definitely. If you want to send me a flyer for that group or even highlight some of these things, I can put that on the blog and stuff and make it
Absolutely.
easier for people to be able to find, or the URLs to be able to download those apps and things?
Yes, I
More
can
than
send that all to you. Absolutely. Yeah. And people can browse the sessions at virtualconnections.com, but I will
okay,
definitely send you some resources as
okay.
well.
Virtualconnections.com. Wonderful. That's fantastic. I think I know typically, I guess my experience has been when aphasia hits, people are just shocked. I mean, they've never heard of it before. They don't know what they're dealing with. And to be able to connect people to others like them is got to be massively huge.
Absolutely. And it's so much fun. We have a great time in these groups. I run a pet lovers session and we just have a blast. We share
Mhm.
our pets. Sometimes we get to see people's pets on screen, sometimes it's pictures, and people communicate in all kinds of different ways within the sessions. Some are verbal, some are using a device, some are typing or using a whiteboard or showing the pictures. So it's really just a combination of ways, and it's such a fun opportunity to connect.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, it's how long has Lingraphica been around? Do you
30
know?
years.
30
30
years.
years.
Okay. Because it
Yeah, and
just
we
seems like,
launched virtual connections during COVID.
okay.
Yeah, so that was the time period where we were hearing from a lot of the people that we work with that those in-person support groups and conversation groups that they were used to attending, they just weren't happening anymore. And obviously that was really detrimental. So we did launch it during COVID, and we partner with the nonprofit Aphasia Recovery Connections to provide the service. And it's just, really taken off and been something that, we have no plans of stopping. It will continue on.
Fantastic. What are some of the ways that your product can help access communication options, for somebody with dementia specifically?
Yeah, sure. So I will talk in more detail about our AAC devices here. So they really are such a dynamic tool just to support communication. So there are multiple ways to communicate built into our devices. Similar to how I was just describing the apps, our talk feature allows for, pre-programmed words and phrases to be spoken with a simple tap. And the communication cards are arranged by topics. So there's an easy way to access, conversational phrases, for example, or maybe I'm in pain or I need to tell you that I'm feeling nauseous. There's an easy way for me to communicate my symptoms. Or there's an easy way for me to access my favorite breakfast foods and let you know what I'd like for breakfast. So all of that is pre-programmed in. And it's really easy to add more. So that's where it differs from the apps. We can add more cards, we can delete, we can edit what is there to reflect the needs of that specific device user. So honestly, my favorite feature of our devices really is that they are highly customizable. And I think that's really important for a couple of reasons. When we're thinking about a person with dementia, we want something that can be simplified over time. So that highly customizable nature of our devices allows us to set it up at, the level that is appropriate at the time that person comes to work with us, but simplify it to their needs over time. And it has been shown in the research to be really beneficial for somebody with dementia to learn to use a system like this, in the earlier stages of their diagnosis, because that'll just make it easier for them to access it more automatically later on. And then the second real benefit of that customization is that, we can really make it personal, and that's what it's all about. So we could use our devices to personalize it to the individual and even build what I would call like a digital memory tool. So if somebody is working with a device early in the stages of their diagnosis, for example, and they are able to communicate with more ease, we can take videos, we can take voice recordings, and those will live on the device and they can then be used, as the condition progresses. So imagine the power of someone with dementia being able to tap that card and say, I love you in their own voice when they are no longer able to speak that verbally.
Wow. That I love the customization. I just think that that is so important. I had one person who was part of my dementia chats who actually used, that's how I found out about your company, and she has since passed. But she just loved your equipment and spoke really highly of it and said it was very, very helpful, for her when she was utilizing that. So
that's great to hear.
I just want to say to our audience, if you're just tuning in, we've been talking with Teresa Thompson, who is the speech and language pathologist and senior clinical educator for Lingraphica. And we've been learning all kinds of stuff that their company does and provides tools, both for fee and free apps to, be able to help people communicate better. You can visit their website, which is lingraphica.com, or you can call them at 888-274-2742. That's 888-274-2742. And they are also on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn and Instagram. So not hard to find them at all. Next, we're going to dive a little bit deeper and learn a little bit more. So stick with us. So Teresa, I want to ask about the Lingraphica device. Can it be used to really help a person be more independent with their activities of daily living? We've been talking about speech, and I can kind of see how that ties in. But if you can talk a little deeper on that, I think that would be helpful for our audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd like to talk a little bit about connection, and then I can talk about independence as well. So one of the things that I think is really lovely about our device is it can be used not only as that communication tool, but also as a memory aid. So we could have, a folder on the device for grandchildren, for example, and we can have actual pictures of each. We could have their names. And then we could also have some vocabulary there that person with dementia may want quick access to when seeing their grandchildren or talking with their grandchildren. I mentioned earlier, we can add in videos, or we can even download videos. So family memories could be stored there as well. I also really like to work with people on communicating with their device via storytelling. So we know that the ability to share personal stories allows for just such a rich connection, and it can really help, stir memories. So we may have a folder set up for somebody where they can tell some of those stories about growing up, or their family, or their job, or all of the above. And we can program that in a step-by-step fashion with their own pictures, their own descriptive phrases, and then they can share with others.
Well, I love that because it ties in not only the independence, the storytelling, that flow, but that dignity aspect.
Absolutely.
I'm still part of this community, or this family, or this friendship, or whatever it is. So that's really quite beautiful.
Absolutely. And just, that quality of life, that's what it's all about. That's why somebody would be coming to us to use a device in the first place. And we really want to think about how we can use it in a meaningful way to increase that quality of life.
Well, that's great. Anything else that you wanted to add? Because I kind of jumped in there and might have cut you off.
No problem. You're completely fine. I did want to just mention, a couple of different ways that I have seen people utilize the device. So let's say we have that story set up. Sometimes we'll see that, an individual may go into their story and they may need to tap the card and have that pre-programmed phrase spoken for them. However, sometimes we do see that it's also just a great, visual aid. So it can sometimes allow somebody to express a name or an idea verbally themselves, or expand upon a story once they've seen that picture support, and those associated words or phrases. So it can really help stimulate that recall and word retrieval. We do also, I wanted to mention briefly, have a type function on our devices. So that allows device users to type in any novel message. And there is the option for on-screen word prediction as needed. And then they can type speak and the device would speak that novel message. And we also have a built-in whiteboard. And I love the whiteboard, Loria. It just opens up a whole additional mode of communication. So, we may have somebody that can get their point across in a given moment by drawing. Or maybe the caregiver can pull up that whiteboard and, write down some keywords to help support the conversation in that moment.
Well, that's cool. I like that. How about in terms of enhancing like leisure activities, like if they do hobbies and artwork and things like that, is that where that would take place in the whiteboard, or does it hook up to, I know I have a thing called Dementia in the Arts, where a lot of people are tapping into different apps, on Google or Apple to just be able to explore and do things?
Yes, that's a great question. So certainly the whiteboard could be a opportunity for leisure. We have had people download like the adult coloring pages, for example. On our whiteboard, you do have the ability to add in a picture. So you can add your own picture and then write words around it. You could grab something from the internet, like an adult coloring page, and then have that to be able to color on as a leisure activity. So that is definitely one aspect of the device that could be used for leisure. But we do also have that opportunity to launch out to websites, like you mentioned. So, if I play Sudoku every day, I can program my card with the Sudoku website, and just with that one tap, it will launch me out to Sudoku or Audible if I want to listen to an audiobook, or, whatever websites are really relevant for my leisure activities.
Okay. Do you have anything for, and again, I'm going to go back to art because I've just seen this be such a powerful resource for people with dementia. Do you have anything that, let's say, if they create stuff as a company where people can display their artwork? I just think that might inspire others and then give them some pride in terms of showing off what they've done as well. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's just I just think it could be a really nice addition if you don't have something like that already.
Yeah, I absolutely love that idea. We haven't done it as specific as that, but what we have done more generally is for our virtual connections members. We have done a publication that included, poems, drawings, artwork, crafts, anything that they created that they wanted to share, and had the opportunity for them to submit that and then have it shared out to other virtual connections members. So it's kind of, along those lines, and a really fantastic idea to pull in some artwork from the device. I love that.
Well, that's
yeah. And the National Aphasia Association also has a Night of the Arts where you see a lot of that type of information shared as well.
And if you know of any of your people that would want to participate in our Dementia in the Arts, we're going to be changing it up come the first of the year. We were only doing it quarterly this year, but we're going to expand that to doing it monthly, myself and Mary Crescenzo, who's a master artist. But we talk with people and they share their artwork. They can either pull up the screen and share the Zoom. And then on my website, I actually have an art gallery where we can post things and put their name by them and stuff. But it's just kind of a nice way for people to be able to see what others are doing. And,
absolutely. That's lovely. I would love to share that opportunity. I'm sure we have people that would be interested.
Well, good. Anything that we missed that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I want to go back a little more on leisure. So, I was talking about programming and customizing a device and different folders. So another area that we could really focus on with leisure is looking at those activities of choice, looking at the things that somebody is interested in, actually, taking part in, and making sure that we have that vocabulary programmed into their device. So I've had a lot of people that I've made bingo folders for, or football folders where they can, yell at the TV and call out the plays and talk about their favorite players. So that I think is a really important aspect of device use. It's just that, actual life participation.
I
And
love
then,
that.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that is really neat. I mean, it's something that is so simple, but I think something that can be easily overlooked. And boy, what a difference that would make in someone's life.
absolutely. Yeah. And, like you said earlier, I'm here and I'm part of this discussion and I'm part of this activity. That's just so powerful, to give somebody the tools they need to be able to be present in a way that is meaningful for them. And then, yeah, I wanted to mention music. So you talked about art, and I agree with you that art is so entirely therapeutic. I really believe that music is as well. So there are a few different ways that I like to incorporate music into the device, where users can access it, just in a real natural way. So if we think about the website links that I was mentioning we have device users that have, whole folders for different artists. So maybe we have an Elvis folder, for example. And then within that Elvis folder, we've got those one-tap cards that can launch out to, a YouTube video of him performing different songs, for example. Or we can even download those videos so that they're just there and we don't even have to have that Wi-Fi access. I've also had device users use their device with a smart device. So we're using the device as the voice control for an Alexa or for an OK Google device, for example. My Alexa just went off. So we have folders pre-programmed into our devices that allows people to quickly access the voice control for an Alexa or an OK Google device, for example. So they can tap a card that will say, OK Google, give me a news update or check the weather. But what I really love to spend some time on here is finding out, like, what do they enjoy with their Alexa? Do they want to tell jokes? Do they want to listen to music? If so, let's make a music folder and get those favorite artists in there so that they can, tap that card and have their favorite musician played.
Oh, that's great. And again, it's that normalcy that everyone else is using those smart devices and allowing them to use them as well. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And I've even had, device users that have their smart device connected to their lights or their thermostat. So same idea, you could program a card where they can really quickly control their thermostat and they're going to have that visual support, the picture of their own thermostat, the words underneath, and then the ability to control it from the device there.
Neat, neat.
Yeah.
Well, that is wonderful. I just found this conversation fascinating, and I really appreciate you taking this time. I think it's so important for us to be inclusive and to raise the profiles of services, products, and tools that are out there that can help people communicate, be independent, thrive within their own lives. And Lingraphica has really done some cool stuff to be able to help people with this. And I also loved when you said, they can do a trial to see if this works. I love that, there's, hey, try the free stuff out first if you want to do baby steps and things.
Right.
Do they apply through, is this something that would be ordered like through their doctor then, or through you as a therapist or a therapist locally?
So it does require a doctor's order and it needs to be recommended by a speech language pathologist. So we have two different ways that can be initiated. So if somebody is currently working with a speech language pathologist, they can start a trial through Lingraphica and they would, with our support and our help, be working one-on-one with the client throughout that trial. We do also, of course, have, device user, or we do also, of course, have people who are interested in our devices that don't have a speech language pathologist. So we have the option for what's called an at-home device trial. And in that scenario, we can go ahead and send a device out and provide some upfront training to the person with dementia, their family, their caregivers. And then if they are interested in pursuing the device, we can find a local speech language pathologist or telehealth speech language pathologist for them to work with on the evaluation.
Okay, well, that's great. And do you mind sharing what the cost of these devices run?
So the cost of the device is set by Medicare. So Medicare has set the device this year for reimbursable speech generating devices for, I believe, about $9,000. So that sounds like quite a ticket item, right? But that's where we work with Medicare, Medicaid, commercial insurances. And then we do provide that financial support in the instance that perhaps Medicare is covering at 80% and that remaining 20% is going to be a burden.
Okay, well, and that is wonderful. And even though the price of the product is high, I mean, just think about it. If you can't communicate, what that does to your quality of life, I mean, that's massively huge. And language is just something we take for granted all too often. And, it's kind of like our hearing, or our sight. We're just so used to it all working. And what if it doesn't? What if it just doesn't anymore? And being able to still participate and feel fulfilled and feel like you still belong and that people are paying attention to you. You're not just a wallflower on the side of the gym who's just watching and feeling depressed. That's not a way to live life. So I love what you're doing. Well, Teresa, I thank you so much for spending time with us today. You have given us so much great information and such important information too. I think so often people, when we don't know what we don't know, some people just stop and they don't explore. And that's why it's so important to have conversations like this on our show and others, is to be able to expose and push it out. Because, when you don't even know something's available, you don't know what it's called. You just don't know. And it can not only stick and get somebody stuck who's diagnosed, but also those that are caring for them if someone isn't stepping up and mentioning these things. And sometimes I don't think the doctors always do a great job either at referring somebody out. They're just like, well, that's what happens. And it's like, no, there are tools out here that can support this. Granted, it can be part of the disease process, but there are still supports for that disease process. And I find often those things are missed.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And, I think having that life participation approach where we have a tool that can give somebody a way to be present, a way to participate in the moment, a way to have some visual memory aids, and then even a way to have, perhaps some supports for completing activities more independently is just, that's priceless. One of the things I wanted to mention, you had asked earlier about the ADLs, and I don't think I mentioned it at that time. Like, the devices are really fantastic for setting up routines too. So, it's so important with dementia where we want to find out what are those routines and activities that are so important for them to complete independently, right? And how can we make that happen? How can we prolong that? So we do customization for that quite a bit too, where, maybe somebody wants to make their daily coffee and we can set up a folder with pictures of the steps and they have that picture support. They have the visual audio support to walk them through that task. So that can be really, really powerful as well.
Oh, fantastic. So for our listeners, I want you to join us and be a giver of hope. like, click, and share. Again, not because I want the numbers, those mean absolutely nothing to me, but I know that there's people in your sphere that need this information. And, it's not going to hurt to spread the word of knowledge that's out there, because even if it doesn't happen to us personally, it might happen to somebody in our family, our circle of friends, our coworkers, our neighbors. I mean, there's this ripple effect. And when you can mention something that you've learned, I mean, you'll see a glint in somebody's eye when they're feeling really hopeless and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that existed. And you've got that power to do that. So be a giver of hope. Help share this episode and get it to the people that need it. And I'm sure if you had any questions, Teresa would be more than glad to talk with you or one of their staff at Lingraphica. It's so powerful. These functional tools, can enhance communication and just participation in life. And we all want to belong. We all want to feel like we're just the same as everyone else, and this gives that opportunity. So again, you can go to their website, lingraphica.com. That's lingraphica.com. You can find them on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, you can also give them a holler at 888-274-2742. Thanks, everyone. Have a blessed week. And remember, check out alzheimerspeaks.com for all those free educational resources we have as well. And you might be interested in our book, Betty the Bald Chicken, Lessons in How to Care, because it really touches on this when you don't feel like you belong or fit in. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye now. Well, hi, I'm Lori LeBay, and I wanted to tell you about Alzheimer Speaks, which is another great podcast. You see, my own mother lived with dementia for 30 years, and I felt lost. Did you know every 3 seconds someone in the world is being diagnosed with dementia? Odds are it's going to hit your families too. We want to help you connect to services, products, tools, research, and stories so you can be prepared. Please subscribe to Alzheimer Speaks on your favorite podcast platform.